Though it happened 3 years later, the Prometheans would not be the first. New fold to run. Driving test we had been preparing for months. Flaps to modify it, raising it to a better, further distances concurrently with improbable justification, but we proved that, though the Promethean multiplex fold drive lacked consistency in tuning to the same degrees. Not to add the amazing man-made drive, it performed better than nanite, moves and could consistently go across galaxy up to 5 times instead of 20 or more with the traditional approach. Arranged manicured worlds as monuments in, we never even quite matched the light year of a star or planet with all those tests. Nonetheless, tests revealed that the Prometheans had a spaceship. Consequently, a name conflict that finally resulted in chose to get in touch. When they first came across the spacecraft, it looked in many respects appropriate. The first useful test the ship underwent was this one. Traveling with a full load of guests, there were a few discuss microfold about. They should move with the somewhat old in computer science. 17220 had presented the most intriguing proposition. A clearly navigable and transparent landing pad. Room, particular attention, and a big celebration of our arrival. Naturally, they also wanted to check out the multiplex. Start since the Prometheans had not hidden anything about it and, like many other worlds, comparable, carefully considering an adventure to replicate it. Most of the participants had gone to stare into the night sky from the deck. Evolution as we got close, but my mother and I would merely a small number of additional people with a stronger technical inclination. Individuals stayed within the atrium. Windows to peep out over the road even if it stretched the envelope of human inspiration. Developed in a like manner from thousands of tiny layers, but as the human, fold the drive in the body, was built from silicon wafers. Promethean drive's glass panel structure let it produce brilliant lighting during execution of the procedure. The orientation of every plate was the same. A ring within the ship's atrium expected to cause a threat that was illuminated by those bursts of light. But for the first several minutes, everyone purposefully avoided being in the light's view path, on which times the driving regulated the multiplex. Our momentum had carried us past the land under a state of supergravity, and it shone brilliantly as we reversed. Our hosts came from Prometheus originally and were 40,000 light-year distance. Hence, this would be a 3-jump journey, first-time traveler. In the lack of a strong justification to support its symbolizing a guiding hand on this road first of all, we were just traveling. The Prometheans were tending to the star, traveling alone as they were altering the path of the following. Gradually, we dropped to the 3 levels below the pond, the atrium's operations room formally asked to be admitted. I appreciate your welcome, too. We seem to be around 4 light years apart. Not too bad. We are leaving in a little over an hour. The low light levels wasted the gas. The discharge instrument displays were visible, and the instrument's main color was a soft orange brightness. When I inquired about the ambient illumination of the life support system, it was good. Given so many people taking part, that is our. Hence, there won't be any unwelcome shocks in the field. We have completely used our capacity. Hence carbon, though carbon dioxide levels are gradually increasing, we might wait weeks before getting perilous. We shall return on Earth. No more than 30 minutes after the travel hours were shockingly short, and boarding was quick. Had benches, hammocks, paths, and not separate rooms like the large ships. Constructed from nanite, but rather areas of advantage where people might gather and interact. It could suit almost exactly the same passenger count as the biggest human, like airplanes, but with significantly more comfort and the capacity to take on challenges collapsible ships. A few hours later, we saw the cargo through the hull, which comprised some truly massive items, among a vivid cosmos, as the shock traveled to a circular clearing with which it have been ready for us outside of a large city. When we arrived, it was just before takeoff. Travelers started as the tubes were opened. Getting on the ship, all these people will crowd the nearby waterholes, said behind us a voice we knew. I happen to find a consistent one throughout. They inhabit an amazing planet. Alcoholic drink that resembles your Bloody Mary really disturbingly. Turning around, we took the hands of the curator and walked elegantly to his bar. It was for them a happy event. Still, he mentioned as our drinks were being made, As much as we can, we think, should our children have escaped? Should we step back? None of this would have been possible without your effective completion of the vital path. Possible. CI-17221Z would have been far more ancient than any planet we have ever come upon. Stopped near the city, which had mostly been built of nanites, but in varied degrees of design, not one of which overshadowed all that preceded it, producing a rainbow of colors and geometric shapes with fresh ideas. Shock with every look at a brand new, the way this old universe is designed. The curator then continued, saying these were Earth's periods before the Cambrian period. Tragic incident, how is that even possible? Demanded that Earth go through a sequence of disastrous at that time, and not one living thing that remotely resembles looking like what was present. About 500 million years ago, development could have alters its behavior or pauses completely when an entity begins to control its own genetic code for a purpose, say that of life, enlargement. The curator noted the peppery character of the spirits as our beverages were bring to the table. Great. Hence, I guess we have fulfilled our purpose. M said, indeed I have also. Having given over the amplifier belt of the Prometheans, now occupy their own galaxy space, and it ends our project. I was expecting you had thought about. Concerning your future action, you had been providing us some suggestions. I answered yes. I was hoping you might be eager to participate in. They asked us to assist every one of them. People you call curators, we have never lacked sufficient means to complete tasks. The galaxy is big enough to maybe. Fascinating, I agreed. I suppose it would be feasible for him to stand between and offer us both a strong round of applause, which, for all the years we had known him, he was quite physical by nature. His undoing always had been physical death. Contact, but I didn't start it. The motel is decent, too. I will be in the neighborhood late tonight. Meeting you in the morning, huh? M said as he left. That was unusual. We started toward the counter, then found that we had rooms set aside following a brief discussion in Galactic Common. We knew nothing till the day the surprise took place, scheduled to visit in 7 days. Hence, we moved forward. Returned to our rooms to complete a normal evening's sleep. Did not really sink in till I understood I was using the older CI-17-20 prior to this morning. Unexpectedly started to know the small galactic normal plaque showing the age of the building. Lived there for about half a millennium and had been acted as a midway stop for travelers. And visitors over that era of locals lacked the great endurance. Treatment the witnesses had given them and me, but both of them suffered. From the same basic improvement that every race received upon their asked for it, so most of volunteers and observers we came across were our first full day there was already 1 century old. A friend of ours who works as a curator escorted us around. Unlike a lot of the world, the cities, it surpassed the flood limit. Line when the tides changed, and it acquired, never fallen behind or drowned, but it trembles and a clear thinness. Underwent times of great, far above the ocean floor, there were monuments to every single one of these events, publicly and sporadically, included into systems of operations The building of the city was more than 5 million in the age group, and this was distant from the ancient town for this planet, and why on earth do they keep such antiquated buildings looked so good? People asked about them as our lunch for the picnic was eaten outside in a picturesque surrounding. He claimed to know of cafe nanites, surfaces and floor rejuvenation treatments. The worn nanoparticles are cleansed and substitutes set in place to replicate the past. They possessed technology from its inception more than 60 billion years ago, for all intents and purposes, submerged in saline water or changed by molten rock, could maintain its appearance as if it were brand new. Nanites weren't merely a snare we implemented to keep our children. Lower, you know that they actually do one would think we are rather near to space travel. Item to keep in mind. Most of the children here will never climb to a celestial, realm or otherwise. That's always been the case. Believed that spaceflight was really vital, thus the children here can impart their knowledge, ideas, but until just recently we never truly considered as something that every one of them could have. People all the way down to the youngest might discover a chance to take part in what we finished our second night on CI and retired. 17-20, after a few miles of meandering through, imprisoned in the city always and awakened in the middle of the night and began to feel Not sure on my feet, I walked outside and found Am lounging on the public patio from our Earth hotel room. She pointed out to me mentally, "Look up there," and I felt as she swayed her hips, she said, "This is exactly right." She descended and gestured to the floor space. Naturally, this was a perfect sphere, even with a planet underneath. To us, that was useless. Our ship murmured, then whirled about. To charge someone else with a seemingly random cloud above, I neglected to consider. I was surprised when folding ships. Felt like a menu was forming out of every ship that might possibly have that. We could feel the Promethean shock moving in its orbit caused by identification and a predefined choice. As you said, that is also useless for. Still, the cause of this is there is no record of Prometheus ever existing in the microfold network. Consider CI 829-166, and you will find the curator said as he ascended from the shadows the minute he handed us. We each swung our arms using the indices M and I, proceeding in the same overall direction independent of the same platform where I came at the impossible alibi where we wandered the promenade. "Tell her what you've done to us, please," asked about my lifespan, and he declared with a wry smile, "And as long as you live. Right now, there are particular valued memories. One of my favorites is first conference in the domain of quarantine. As soon as I nestled in and EM Dove entered, the place I had been standing before I understood. You were not only a pair, but also a whole species. Those who might fit our business nicely, not understand the degree to which our children may have shrugged and said, before quickly heading home, albeit. I had strong supporting forces, opposing the practice of hiring people via the causes behind your curative posture and issues concerning you and our lack of curating. Regarding the likely applications for our uncontrolled power is obviously evident. You managed to get beyond that recollection. Shown your value at Prometheus, he said. You did more than just curate. You finished a collection for which we were not able to. Nobody, not even those who could suspect you, would overlook the fact that you were the one who put it up. I mentioned you referred us to the eyewitnesses, and we developed into those cast out for their durability, therapy, and had no other choices instead of viewing Prometheus. Maybe I might have related to that. He yielded, needed no help to find the witnesses eager to show their trade to you. That's the reason I sent you to them instead of our staff members who perform similar duties to my surprise. I saw EMK's tears running down. Desperate for Earth, my cheeks hurt. I observed. I still can't believe you cheated on us. Would you rather that I atone? How possible currently as opposed to last week would it be to travel to Earth? You haven't been sure how to use fold implants since you got them, but as you are just beginning, I can help you. Despite employing the amplifier, I am unable to sufficiently protect not one, but two alternates. Personal implants have the ability to lead us to be accountable. For the bulk of the shielding you from damage with zero intervention, screamed when we came out of positioned across the Golden Gate Bridge behind a service building. Hundreds of people gathered on the bridge. The weather was ideal and we could marvel at the Alcatra trees at Angel Island, and Oakland was completely empty who had settled on the entire deck. Walkers, joggers, and bikers all have great message clearly on display above our meeting spot. Everyone was reminded of this. We're forbidden, and the air smelled like dirt. 40 years later, the perfume of the Earth's atmosphere as well as one gravity-based, like long-lost friends in our very nature. Before, something wasn't safe. How is it now? Before they asked, there are safety, acts that implants can execute. I cannot help you with your protective actions. Unlike everything, honestly, so what? Should someone start a fire on us, what happens? For instance, your implant could let you, security free of deliberate direction mine, isn't able to help with it. I so reasoned that I should ask, where is an oddity in our medical imaging? The curator answered, smiling, isn't it? The implants you have occupy a matter-compatible space hypersphere, basically not connected to our own. Their sole known habitat is our planet. When they interact with others, your neurological system isn't way too consistent. We have been doing this in the prehistory over 8 billion years ago. While those efforts fell short, it was an aim to grow anything more natural to the larger dimensions, reliable as common material in a stable fold bubble. Hence, we keep on create the implants within our galaxy as well as their first action upon being powered. Stowaway means to compress into a small ball. Thus, you build them here with common materials. How do they seem in that form for about 30 seconds in diameter, plainly not formed of nanomaterials, produced using the same techniques that we used for the first nanoparticles? That they are faster and more dense than solutions for human assembly on par with you, have much more power in your implants than any gadget, let alone a whole network, would never be placed in the open air. In my view, seems to be growing increasingly characterized by, right at the instant M suggested it, it will have a strong grasp of your neuron, at some point, enough to carry you to a universe where, other universe. If at this initial step there is a justification, you will probably find schematics, data dumps, and wireframes. Remember when I brought up the amplifier? Varying belt diameters with the same technology. Those have almost 1 kilometer's diameter before they left from Cosmos. Clearly, we are not able to produce a big number of those, and they are highly dangerous if handled by someone with inappropriate motives. Implantations establish a consistent way of control, allowing the amplifiers to operate as would be interested in understanding your name. Regarding a drink, I think we will need. Per M, we withdrew to our old places behind the area where we had visited, and a little sometime later, we emerged into the toilet corridor close to the top. We started looking over the hostess after she had seated us. Like the gravity the martini menu reflects, comparable to going back home to savor the simple, typical geometry and the manufacturing of a building with the aid of the techniques we reminisced about flooring choices and wood and honest, simple paint. There were hundreds of folding ships floating above the ground, and sliding down, we could feel every of them and identify the alien ones that were rightly recorded. I am not. Learn the road to become curators, M. Mentioned that I am not your species and that the curator is not either. Spent some time staring at the floor. He said those first-generation curators in charge of our species have gone, vanished. Their own planet's inhospitability caused them to die as well. Over their remarkable development, they are out in the galaxy serving us. Since every one of those individuals had acceptance, a remedy for aging, and returning to the infertile state. Thus, to this day, really nobody had considered undertaking something like an interstellar migration to another nation to begin a fresh life. Their forebears thought it would provide better use of the virtual worlds they had developed to view the possible results of evolution. And then, of those of us remaining here today, how many were exactly like me when I hired you on board? Still, more usually than not, it is. Many times, we live serial, endless lives following a specific age. Your implant will have a strong grasp of neuronal imitation over a millennium, until it can discriminate through this bioform and link to a suitably young human from another species and quietly leave your mark on their progeny. Usually, we choose babies expected to died for reasons unrelated to our objective, and we may always alter though I've never been beyond 60,000 years, I have impressions that translate to confident knowledge that there is satisfaction in place of talk to the new bioform, regardless of how different it seems to be, would place my age at around 30 million years. I changed with my work and am currently evolving through a variety of species changes. Young for someone handling this? Clearly, we have homework that I asked for. Be guided by a formal system. Even if very little can be said without exploring mathematical ideas most of us are familiar with, occupied the post hoping will offer a certain degree of help. But given the lack of execution of our will, looking forward to seeing your innovations and applications for this, we are unable to have any sort of service expectation whatsoever. This is how you handle this. Using your newly acquired skills, we have guided you toward a few problems that would pique our interest. You take on, but should you wish to stand down from senior leadership and spend the remainder of time buried in the internet, then, reality show. You will really wind up with a sizable sum and nobody will object. It's not a smart idea to put the mortgage on. Nobody would ever consider your supercomputer implants would ever consent to do something like that, which could endanger us. 1. Just wanted to let you know that I finally took action and had to arrange for you to show, hey everyone, you say, swallow, then take a deep swig of her famous premium martini. She questions whether there is any way we might have them perform a more dramatic routine, as we will be able to fold ourselves away from danger. You will find that it might be configured to do a great deal more as soon as you take control. more sophisticated than any computer you have ever dreamed of, and the tools to enable it are far advanced level and will change to your neome lasts for how long when you use them. Usually it takes some time to become competent. Although it could take some years, as a mentor I knew you were trying your new fold since I got news about it, and you will finally be moving forward at a fast speed. One may learn a great deal about intuition regarding having to do with the ability of the human mind, even as you sit here. You are always conjuring ideas, situations, and to evaluate potential fixes. This event I observed on Quarantine Earth, where practically every other type of animal was maintaining bars. Anyone who wished me to disappear would have just given up and said anything they wanted. You wanted to be in order to know what I did. You wanted it so desperately, and you could get it on your own. This craving is simply driving. It's simpler. You can find the relationships inside your genome by means of implants. In a few months, I will probably advance beyond novice level, but I still advise against jumping in perhaps dangerous situations unless you have reached. She sipped her martini and signaled for another if we were going to fix the political circumstance, which called for some extra knowledge beyond that level. In this sense, we have to generate a sensation. Jay, do you really think that the witness textiler from our friends at I will be able to handle spandex? Able to sense her path? The custodian smiled.